Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer made by Forge College. Now, if you've been following along, you know we've been gathering some pretty crucial raw materials in the previous synthesis and next steps lesson. Well, today is the day. We're finally transitioning from just gathering those materials into actively drafting our master architectural blueprint for designing the integration approach.
To draft that blueprint effectively, we need a roadmap. So here's our architectural schematic for today's drafting session. First, we'll cover drafting the master blueprint, then we'll look at the gatekeeper mesh, followed by the types of gatekeepers, the 5-step workflow, a token vault prototype, and finally, verification and synthesis. Let's get right into it. All right, section 1, drafting the master blueprint. Okay, let's dive into this. Drafting the master blueprint is where the magic actually happens. We're taking the concrete outputs from your previous testing phase, like your failing test cases and prioritized flaws, and we're using them as the exact input constraints. This helps us decide where your access checks absolutely must live in the codebase. You know, your failing test cases dictate exactly which call sequences need guards. Then, your prioritized flaws act like a massive spotlight, highlighting your high-risk integration points. And those candidate mitigations you brainstormed, well, they're going to guide whether you need centralized or distributed control across your smart contracts. Moving right along, section 2, the gatekeeper mesh. So this brings us to a really fundamental shift in how we think about smart contract security. We've got to move away from the old school mindset of, a single tired bouncer at a club door. Instead, we want a gatekeeper mesh. This is a decentralized network of localized, centralized, and observational decision points, all working together to enforce your security invariants. Why? Because relying on a single centralized gate is honestly a bit like trusting a screen door on a submarine. It's just a catastrophic single point of failure waiting to happen. And this quote brilliantly illustrates the exact mindset shift you need to make for your capstone project. By viewing your access control as a mesh, you effectively isolate your trust boundaries. You minimize the attack surface of each component, creating all these multiple layers where an attacker has to fail repeatedly before they can ever even hope to succeed. Next up, section 3, types of gatekeepers. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter for your capstone? Well, to build a mesh, you need to know exactly what building blocks you're working with. We generally work with 2 main categories that complement each other perfectly. On the left side, we have authoritative guards. Think of these as your on-chain muscle. They're your pre-execution checks and direct prevention mechanisms, like a require statement that physically blocks an invalid action right in its tracks. On the right side, we have observational signals. These are your security cameras. They handle event emissions and provide all that crucial off-chain monitoring and accountability. You absolutely need the muscle to stop the immediate threat, but you also need the cameras to monitor the overall health of the system. All right, section 4, the 5-step workflow. Okay, let's accelerate a bit as we move from abstract theory to mechanical execution. We're literally putting pen to paper now. This 5-step workflow is the exact engine that transforms your gatekeeper mesh from just a neat conceptual idea into an actionable, deployable architecture. We're going to move sequentially through discovery, classification, placement, instrumentation, and finally, verification. Let's break these down real quick. Steps 1 and 2 are all about mapping and organizing the territory. Discovery is where you enumerate your risky entry points, essentially mapping out the landscape based on your previous tests. Classification follows right after, and that's where you decide exactly what type of guard is needed for each of those vulnerable points. Like, do we need authoritative muscle here, or can we just delegate it? So the crucial point is what happens next in steps 3 and 4. Placement is where you perform this delicate balancing act, weighing system costs, like gas fees, against the need for future upgradability. You're deciding if the guard lives locally or in some shared manager. Then, instrumentation defines the minimal event schemas with stable identifiers. This is what gives you the essential logging metadata your off-chain systems are going to desperately need. And finally, step 5, verification. This is where your beautiful design actually becomes verifiable. We map every single guard and event to a static analysis rule or a runtime monitor. We're literally turning a single abstract blueprint guard into at least one concrete unit test and static analysis check. Pretty cool, right? Section 5, token vault prototype. Now let's ground all this abstract workflow into reality. What's really interesting here is how this vault prototype mixes completely different types of checks depending on the function's specific risk profile. For example, the deposit function is low risk, right? People are giving us money, so it just gets an observational logging audit. But the withdrawal function, that is extremely high risk, so that gets an authoritative role and a time lock check. Meanwhile, execute emergency gets a delegated multi-party consensus. We are perfectly mixing local checks, a central access manager, and event-driven monitoring all in one place. Let's see how this all builds into an actual integration matrix. Every single row in this table represents a small, highly actionable implementation task for your capstone project. Look at the top row. Your Vault's withdraw point gets an authoritative guard, it emits a withdraw requested event, and it hooks directly into a static analysis check for roles and time locks. By breaking it down like this, the honestly overwhelming task of securing a contract suddenly becomes a super manageable checklist. And hey, speaking of numbers, let's talk about the number 1 for a second. Because 1 is the exact number of single points of failure you want to avoid when designing a system like this. Literally, 0 is the goal here.
Section 6, Final Verification and Synthesis.
Well, we're nearing the end of our drafting session today. If you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer, remember these 3 guiding principles. First, always balance your authoritative enforcement with observational signals, muscle and cameras, right? Second, define precise failure modes and event schemas so your static analysis actually has something to check. And third, avoid monolithic centralization unless your governance explicitly supports it. As you'll see as you continue building, mastering these fundamentals flawlessly prepares you for the upcoming Mapping Access Flows lesson. I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought as you look over your own blueprints. How will your gatekeeper mesh balance impenetrable security with seamless contract composability? It's kind of the ultimate tightrope walk of Web3 engineering, isn't it? Thank you so much for joining this explainer made by Forge College. Be sure to visit forge.college to learn more about this subject, explore our other programs, and continue your journey into incredible Web3 topics. See you next time.